Everything felt final. The silence, the last stare, the quiet goodbye. But as Gi-hun turned and walked away from the gate, one question echoed louder than anything else. Was this really the end? Or just the beginning of something even darker? Squid Game Season 3 didn't just close a chapter, it lit the match for a storm we never saw coming. And if you blinked during the last 10 minutes, you might have missed the real warning hidden beneath the goodbye. The final episode of Squid Game Season 3 was a slow-burning explosion of tension, heartbreak, and quiet rage. It didn't rely on massive twists or loud moments, but rather on the heavy weight of silence, hidden messages, and choices that speak louder than words. Everything led to Gi-hun, the player who once barely survived the game, standing on the edge of freedom and walking away from it. The episode began with Gi-hun following the trail left by the mysterious recruiter. Unlike in Season 1, where he was powerless, this time he wasn't just a player. He had knowledge, he had purpose, and most of all, he had nothing to lose. Throughout the episode, he tried to expose the truth behind the organization. We saw him connect with others who had lost loved ones to the game, building what felt like the start of a resistance. But the power behind Squid Game had evolved. It was bigger, smarter, and always one step ahead. When Gi-hun reached the final meeting spot, the audience expected a confrontation. Instead, we got something far more unsettling. The front man, once the mysterious boss behind the mask, was now broken, questioning his own loyalty. He revealed that the real mastermind had changed. It wasn't just about rich men watching for fun anymore. The game had turned into a system that feeds on society's hunger, debt, and desperation. It didn't need to be hidden anymore. It had become part of everyday life. Gi-hun was offered a deal. Silence in exchange for safety, a way out. A plane ticket, money, and the promise that he'd never be followed again. But when he saw a new man being recruited with the same slap game, he couldn't walk away. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about stopping the cycle. The last scene hit hard. At the airport, Gi-hun held his ticket, stood at the gate, and glanced at the boarding line. For a moment we saw peace in his eyes. Then his phone rang. A familiar voice warned him, "This is bigger than you think. You step away now, or you'll be next." Gi-hun didn't answer. He simply turned around and walked away from the plane. He chose war over peace. He chose the unknown over freedom. And in that moment it became clear this wasn't his ending. This was his beginning, but the way the scene was shot told us even more. The lighting darkened as he walked out. His red hair glowed under the dim airport lights. People around him moved like ghosts, lifeless, robotic, and unaware. That was the real meaning. The game isn't just in a hidden arena anymore. The world is the game. And Gi-hun, he's no longer a player. He's the threat. Gi-hun didn't ask to become a hero. He was just a broken man, a forgotten father, a gambler living in the shadows of debt and regret. But what Squid Game did to him, what it forced him to become, was something even he didn't see coming. His journey across 3 seasons was never just about survival. It was about transformation. And now, in Season 3, we finally see what the game truly created. Not a winner, but a weapon. Back in Season 1, Gi-hun was lost. He didn't trust himself. He cared too much, which in a game designed to kill compassion made him weak. But somehow, he survived. Not because he was the strongest, but because he still held on to his humanity, even when it almost got him killed. He left the game with trauma, blood on his hands, and a broken look in his eyes. And yet, even after winning the money, he didn't touch it for over a year. That wasn't guilt. That was something deeper. That was awareness, realizing that the world outside the game wasn't that different from the world inside. Season 2, Gi-hun's silence had turned into fire. He began to ask questions. Why did the game exist? Who built it? And why was no one stopping it? That season pushed him further into the shadows, uncovering layers of the organization while risking his life. But still, he was reactive. Not yet. Fully in control. He lost friends, lost allies, and worst of all, he lost faith in justice. He saw how deep the game's reach really was. The powerful weren't just watching, they were everywhere. That season ended with Gi-hun dying in a symbolic way. Not his body, but his old self. The soft-hearted, naive man who once cried after winning, he was gone. Season 3 introduces a new Gi-hun, one who's careful but cold, calculated but calm. He's no longer playing defense, he's hunting the system from the inside. But here's what makes his transformation so unique. He doesn't want revenge. He doesn't care about money anymore. What he wants is to make sure no one else suffers the way he did. He wants to destroy the roots of the game, not just the players, and yet there's a cost to this mission. Gi-hun's relationship with his daughter is broken. He rarely smiles now, the light in his eyes is dim. The show quietly hints that he's losing pieces of himself every time he digs deeper into the darkness. That's what makes his arc tragic. He's doing the right thing, but at the cost of everything he once loved. His red hair, once mocked by fans, suddenly makes more sense in Season 3. It's not just a quirky decision. It's symbolic. Red is the color of the game, the guards, the suits, the blood. It shows he's no longer running from the nightmare, he's wearing it, owning it. Becoming the enemy of the very system that tried to break him. In one of the most telling scenes of the season, Gi-hun stares into a mirror and doesn't recognize himself. The camera lingers, no music, just his breath. That silence is powerful. It tells us he's already lost himself, but he's still moving forward. Because stopping now would mean the game wins. The new Gi-hun isn't trying to survive anymore. He's trying to end something much bigger than himself. And that's what makes the ending hit so hard. When he walks away from the airport gate, he's not walking into safety, he's walking into war. But here's the twist. This is not a revenge story. It's a story about resistance. About choosing to fight a system that most people don't even realize is killing them. Gi-hun went from being a man who begged for his life in the rain to someone who stares danger in the face without blinking. This isn't just character growth. This is a revolution unfolding from within a broken soul. And if the final episode taught us anything, it's this. The most dangerous player in the game is the one who's no longer afraid to lose. Asterisk at first glance, the final moments of Squid Game Season 3 may seem simple, just a man making a choice. But if you watch closely, the scene is layered with quiet signals, powerful symbols, and visual storytelling that says more than any dialogue ever could. Every detail, every color, every movement in those last 10 minutes carries a hidden meaning, and together they tell a chilling story that goes far beyond Gi-hun. Let's start with color. The silent language of Squid Game. In the final airport sequence, red and blue dominate the frame once again. Just like in Season 1's Slap Game, the same two colors that decided fate, the guard suits were red, the game's walls, often blue. In this final scene, Gi-hun's surroundings are tinted in cold, sterile blue. The airport walls, the lights, even the uniforms of the flight staff. It feels safe, structured, and lifeless. Then comes Gi-hun, still wearing red as coat, a symbol of danger and defiance. This is the same color worn by the masked guards. The show is silently saying he's no longer outside the system, he's become part of the chaos, but the most haunting detail? Everyone else in the airport moves like machines. No one makes eye contact. No one notices Gi-hun turning back. It's subtle but powerful. It shows us that the rest of the world is already numb and aware of the real game that's playing out behind the curtain. In this moment, Gi-hun becomes more alive than anyone else. He sees what others don't. That's the curse of surviving Squid Game. Once you know the truth, you can never unsee it. Then there's the phone call, the voice that warns him to walk away. It's calm, collected, and chilling. It doesn't beg or threaten, it simply reminds him, you're not ready for what's coming. That line holds weight. It suggests that the organization knows what he's planning, that they've seen others try and fail, that they've planned for rebellion. It tells us the game isn't just powerful, it's predictive. It doesn't react, it prepares, and yet Gi-hun doesn't speak. He doesn't fight back on the phone, he just listens, and then turns around. That silence is more powerful than shouting. It tells us he's done negotiating, that he's beyond fear. His silence is his answer. Let's talk about the mirror. Shot, a moment many viewers missed. Just before the airport, Gi-hun looks at his reflection in a train window. For a split second, the glass shows a faint double image. One version of Gi-hun looks forward. The other, his reflection, stares back at him. It's a small but clever visual metaphor. It shows the two sides of his identity, the man who wanted peace, and the man who's ready for war. The image fades as the train speeds up, and only one version remains, the fighter. That's who he is now. Then there's the theme of choice, one of the deepest parts of Squid Game's storytelling. In Season 1, players had to choose whether to return to the game. In Season 3, the choice flips. Gi-hun now has to choose to leave it. He's free, he has a plane ticket, he has money. But when he sees someone else being recruited in the same way he can't let it go. That moment is crucial. Because it's not a flashback, it's a mirror. It shows that nothing has changed. The cycle continues. And that's what breaks him. There's also one last chilling clue, the song playing faintly in the airport. A slowed-down orchestral version of the childhood tune from the red light, green light game. It's soft, almost comforting. But if you recognize the melody, it hits hard. That song was tied to death, fear, and innocence lost. Hearing it now in a calm public space is disturbing. It tells us the game is no longer hidden. It's everywhere. Blending into the background of everyday life, all of this builds to a final message that the show doesn't say out loud but shows us through symbols. The game doesn't end when the players leave. The real game is the system that allows it to exist. And in that system, people like Gi-hun are dangerous, not because they're loud, but because they understand. That's why the goodbye doesn't feel final. That's why the title, Goodbye Forever, isn't just a question, it's a warning. Because if Gi-hun is still out there, if he's still fighting, then the game hasn't ended. It's only changed form, the final shot with Gi-hun walking into the crowd and disappearing echoes the very first scene of Season 1, him walking among strangers, unnoticed and lost. Except now he's not lost. He knows exactly where he's going. And that, more than anything, is the most dangerous ending of all. If the final scene of Squid Game Season 3 taught us anything, it's this: the game doesn't stop when the credits roll, it mutates, it hides, it waits. And now, with Gi-hun turning his back on freedom, we're not at the end of the story. We're at the beginning of a brand new war. Let's start with the biggest question on everyone's mind. What is Gi-hun planning? He didn't take the plane. He didn't call the authorities. He didn't go back to his daughter. That silence isn't emptiness, it's intention. It means he has a plan. One that doesn't involve running, begging, or trusting the system that allowed this horror to exist. He's walking into enemy territory not as a player, but as a saboteur. And that changes everything. Season 3 planted several quiet seeds that could grow in. Season 4, we saw Gi-hun connect with people affected by the game, families of the dead, survivors who live in fear, even past guards who had escaped. These weren't just emotional moments, they were set up. A silent army built from the ashes of the broken. People who understand the system because they were victims of it. People with nothing left to lose. This opens the door to something we've never seen in Squid Game before, a resistance. Not from outside, but from within. What happens when players, guards, and even former VIPs begin to question the game? What if someone on the inside helps Gi-hun? The ending made it clear. Cracks are forming. The system isn't as untouchable as it once seemed, but the bigger threat might not be Gi-hun. It might be the new leadership behind the game. In Season 3, we learned that the front man is no longer fully in control. His authority is challenged. The organization has grown into something colder, more automated, global, and institutional. This isn't a group of rich men playing with lives for fun anymore. It's something deeper, almost like a cult or a network that thrives in shadows across nations. The kind of system where removing one head only causes two more to grow. This could mean that Season 4 won't just stay in South Korea. It could expand internationally. We've seen hints already, new languages on screens. Different currencies being exchanged, players recruited from other countries. What if Squid Game is no longer just one isolated event? What if it's part of a worldwide machine? That would make Gi-hun's mission even more impossible. And even more necessary. Let's talk about the frontman, whose quiet collapse in Season 3 could be one of the most important setups for Season 4. He's a man torn between guilt and loyalty, between brotherhood and control. His breakdown shows us that the system not only destroys players, it eats its own leaders alive. If he breaks from the organization, he could become Gi-hun's most unexpected ally, or his deadliest enemy. And then there's the recruitment scene, the one that changed everything. A new recruiter playing the slap game. A new victim walking away with a card in his hand just like Gi-hun once did. The cycle has started again, and it's worse than ever. Because now we know the organization has learned, they've adapted. They're not just running the game, they're protecting it like a virus protects its own code. That's what makes Gi-hun's rebellion so risky. He's not just fighting guards or rules anymore. He's fighting belief. A system that people willingly feed because it gives them hope, money, or purpose. And this leads us to one final theory. Will Gi-hun become the next frontman? It sounds crazy at first, but think about it. He understands the game from both sides. He knows how players think, how the system manipulates. He's been a victim, a survivor, and now a threat. If the organization realizes he can't be silenced, they might try to control him instead. Offer him a position of power. Seduce him with the illusion of change from within? Would he accept? Probably not, yet. But that's the brilliance of Squid Game. Every season shows us how easily people shift when survival is on the line. If Gi-hun faces a situation where protecting others means becoming part of the very system he hates, what will he choose? That's a Season 4 story worth watching. In the end, Squid Game Season 3 doesn't give us a goodbye. It gives us a mirror. A look at a world that's still turning, still bleeding, still recruiting. Gi-hun didn't walk away from the game. He walked into it, with his eyes wide open, and a fire that even death couldn't kill. So when we ask, goodbye forever? The real answer might be, not yet. Because the game isn't over. It's evolving, and next season, it fights back.